What's up, my wizards? It's Dev from SBMTG down there on the YouTube.com on your screen right there. We like magic. More Kaladesh spoilers. I just feel like every video is the same intro lately. More Kaladesh spoilers for you. Let's go ahead and check them out because I got a lot to say about a couple of cards. Especially this guy right here. I'm going to start off with Midnight Oil, and some translations have said Night Owl, but I'm pretty sure we now know it's Midnight Oil. This is 4 mana, 2 generic, and 2 black for an enchantment. Midnight Oil enters the battlefield with 7 time counters on it. At the beginning of your draw step, draw an additional card, then remove 2 time counters from Midnight Oil. Your maximum hand size is equal to the number of time counters on Midnight Oil, and whenever you discard a card, you lose 1 life. There's a couple of things that's really important to point out about the card first before any further discussion takes place. And one thing is that even after you lose all the time counters on the card, you still keep drawing cards. Drawing cards is not dependent on time counters being on it. A lot of people have misread it as such. Also, another way that people have misread it is that if you only have 1 counter left on it and you go to remove 2 counters, you still have to remove that final counter. This will put your hand size at 0 eventually. Another cool thing to point out about the card is that if you have one in play and you're getting dangerously low on time counters, you can play another one, and the timestamp here is what matters. It'll go off of whichever one was played most recently, so you can basically reset your hand size for a turn or 2 or 3, really, if you play a second Midnight Oil on top of another. And their effects will stack, so you get to draw another extra card every turn. So multiple copies of this actually doesn't seem super bad at all. So I don't mind it, and of course I have to point this out because this is the #1 point of discussion on the cards so far, is Harmless Offering. Will this replace Demonic Pact? I think this is way, way worse to donate than a Demonic Pact, you know. Demonic Pact can just win you the game when you donate it if you do things right. This does not. They'll take incremental damage, and that's if they can't empty their hand, you know. Against things like aggro and even mid-range, they'll often be able to play the cards that they draw every turn, so they won't end up taking damage. I should point that out about us too. If we have this card under our control and our hand size is 0 and we're drawing 2 or maybe even sometimes 3 from multiple copies of this, then we'll still have a pretty easy time of emptying our hand and not taking too much damage. But that being said, I will point out that if you do choose to Harmless Offering this to your opponent, then it's pretty good if they're playing a control deck or any deck that wants to hold cards on your turn, you know. Because basically after a couple of turns, this card makes it impossible to hold cards on your opponent's turn. Sucks for us if it's out on our side of the battlefield, but it sucks for them if it's out on their side too. So if you're playing against control, really, you know, a counterspell heavy deck, or even like white-black control that likes to hold up removal, this card will not let them do that if it has 0 time counters on it and you donate it to them. So Harmless Offering is simultaneously kind of bad. It's nowhere near as good as Demonic Pact. And it's, you know, also kind of promising against a very specific deck. So maybe sideboard. I'm just not sure about this, and a lot of people say the card is straight up bad, but I don't know about that necessarily. I like drawing extra cards. And you know, one more thing and I'm done. This is a card I really want to talk a lot about. One more thing and I'm done. A lot of people have said this could be good at the top end of the curve in an aggro deck. I'm not sure because, first of all, I don't know what aggro deck it really goes into. You know, we're seeing a possible red-black aggro deck take shape, but it doesn't look great, you know, the vampire deck. It really hasn't gotten too many amazing pieces from this set. And if that deck plays a 4-drop, it's probably going to play Bloodhall Priest, honestly, if it plays any 4-drops at all. Like I said, maybe a specific sideboard piece against control if you Harmless Offering it to them. But you can't ever discount the you know, multiple card draw. And it does have cool tricks, you know, the timestamp thing is really a good trick. Playing a second one on top of an existing one and refreshing your hand size is actually, that seems pretty powerful. So the jury is out. If you can't tell, I'm very, very split on this card, but I do like the few tricks that are available to us with it. Not only with Harmless Offering, but like just rulings-wise. I like a couple of the tricks available to us. So, card looks like it could be powerful, but I'm just not seeing too many applications for it right now. The translation I've got on this is Aerial Gatherer, and I think that's a bad translation. But anyway, this is 3 mana, 2 generic and a white for an instant. Exile target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. draw a card. Very nice, I think, at least for blink decks and stuff like that. We've already talked with all these Gear Hulks. Every time a Gear Hulk comes out, somebody's like, blink it and do a thing. This is just exactly for that. And it gives us card advantage. I really like sort of a blue-white Gear Hulk control deck that plays the one that lets you flashback instants. That seems good. And of course the white Hulk too. That seems awesome, and you can blink them and do, you know, either wipe the board again or, you know, play another instant. Like the whole of that, it seems pretty interesting at least. You know, I'm willing to check that out. So I like this. I think we need to blink creatures in this format, and sure, we've got Eldrazi Displacer, but it's always good to have it, you know, as a surprise at instant speed whenever we want to do it. So, I'm a fan. I'm not sure it's going to see like mainstream play, but ETB effects are a huge thing right now. If you haven't noticed, they were already a thing in Standard, and there's so many more of them in this set too. So, and I'm happy with that. I love Enter the Battlefield triggers. Like, they're one of my favorite things in Magic. So, really, really like it. Really do like it, and we'll see if it hits Standard play, or if we're just going to keep using Eldrazi Displacer and nothing else. But something tells me that this could have a place. I should also mention before I move on that the card is good in a utilitarian sense too. It's not just Enter the Battlefield triggers that are abusable with this. You know, you can save your creature from spot removal if you want to. You can remove your creature from combat if it gets into trouble. So a lot of actual practical applications for this outside of just, you know, let's build a deck with ETB triggers. So, and it draws you a card, which is just, that can't be understated. Drawing a card is very good. So good card. This is the first card that was spoiled this morning, and it has got people freaking out. This is Dubious Challenge. This is 4 mana, 3 generic, and a green for a sorcery. Look at the top 10 cards of your library. Exile up to 2 creature cards from among them. Then shuffle your library. Target opponent may choose one of the exiled cards and put it onto the battlefield under his or her control. Put the rest onto the battlefield under your control. First thing I should point out as far as the function of the card here is that it's a May ability for the opponent. So if you choose, you know, a 1/1 and an Emrakul, you know, they'll always be able to get the Emrakul. They don't have to choose the 1/1 or anything. It's nothing tricksy like that. So that's right out. This is not Collected Company. It is not Collected Company. First of all, I should also say that a lot of people have been confused on this. Unless it specifically says on a card to exile things face down, they are automatically exiled face up. Both players have access to those cards. They know what they are. So this is not sort of like a fact or fiction. You pick a pile and see what happens, you know. None of that. They know exactly what they're getting every time. So no tricks in that regard either. This is sorcery speed, by the way. I'm going to get back to why it's not like Coco. This is sorcery speed. It doesn't get you 2 creatures like pretty much ever, unless there's something that your opponent really doesn't want, you know. And you can't do like weird donate tricks, like Harmless Offering tricks with this card. You can't do them with this card because, again, it's a May ability. They could always choose to not get the crappy creature, like the Bronze Bombshell that kills them or whatever. So, you know, this card does not work the way that a lot of people initially read it. You know, you can't force your opponent to do something they don't want to do, basically. And they'll always get the best creature that you put out if they want to. So I'll say this in favor of the card. 10 cards is a lot. Digging 10 cards is an awful lot. So there's at least that, you know, you get to see an awful lot of your deck. Even if you play this on turn 4, you're seeing 1/5 of your deck. It's not bad. So as far as how far it digs into the deck, I guess that's good, and you'll get a free creature off of it, you know. Basically, if you pull 2 stupid bomb creatures, you know, they have to be very similar, I guess, in power level. You know, you don't want one to be clearly better than the other because your opponent will take that one. I don't know that I like this card at all. Maybe I'm missing something about, you know, how the basic function, but I don't think that's the case. I think there's an awful lot of problems with the card, and it could possibly see some play, but it would have to be very much built around. And you could say the same thing about Collected Company, but I think Collected Company had so many more, you know, practical applications, so many more utilitarian purposes. And I don't think that this card is that in any way, and you can't play it at instant speed, which was like 70% of why Collected Company was so ridiculous most of the time. So, not a huge fan. It will not replace Coco. Do not fear that. I promise that's not going to happen. So let me know how you feel about this card specifically too, and note that I've taken a while to talk about this. This is the other thing that I wanted to at least discuss. So let me know in the comments how you feel. This is Cloud Blazer. It's 5 mana. That's 3 generic, a white, and a blue for a human scout. It's a 2/2 flyer. And when it enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life and draw 2 cards. Okay, so when I first read this is how I think of it. It's like a Sphinx's Revelation. That's sorcery speed, and it's not scalable, but it gets you a 2/2 flying body. It's probably okay. Like, it's also reminiscent, obviously, of Mole Drifter. There's that, but you can't evoke it, that's how a lot of people play Mole Drifter. So, you know, I'm not really sure about this lady right here. People are saying she might be standard playable. I think that there's just like way better stuff for this mana cost, but 2 cards is really good, and you can blink her and stuff, you know, so I think that there is at least a case for this, and it's probably like really good in certain budget decks. I've been looking for something to build with Displace that's like $5 or $10, you know. Just the blue card Displace, this thing right here. And this could go a long way in a budget deck to being just really playable in, you know, maybe a $10 or $15 budget deck. I think this could be a good top end. So in certain niche casual decks, maybe yes, but I don't think it goes above that. Although 2 life and 2 cards and a 2/2 flying body is good. That's pretty good. This is Unlicensed Disintegration. It's 3 mana, a generic, a black, and a red. For an instant, destroy target creature. If you control an artifact, Unlicensed Disintegration deals 3 damage to that creature's controller. Now we know we already have Murder in the format, but this is another 3 mana instant speed destroy target creature that's unconditional. That's kind of good to have, honestly, even if you're not playing artifacts. But there is sort of a weird black-based artifacts deck that looks like it might try to be a thing. Again, maybe on the budget level, but we'll see another card for that deck at the end of this spoiler video that actually seems really interesting. So I'm liking the way that deck's shaping up. But this, I mean, 3 mana destroy target creature, I was really hoping they'd reprint Terminate. In specifically this set, or maybe the next one, I really want Terminate badly in this standard, but this is really, really close, like super duper close, and in, you know, a black-red control, or maybe Grixis, perhaps Grixis, I could see that, maybe even Jund. There is an argument for Jund artifacts. You play Tireless Tracker, you get clues, this becomes, you know, kill a guy and deal 3, which is really, really good. So I do like the card an awful lot, and there probably is some sort of shell that it could go into easily. So I like it. I do in fact like it. And I'm a nerd for removal. I really like anything that looks like efficient removal. This is Smuggler's Copter, though, right here. It's a completely different card. This is 2 generic. For a 3/3 artifact, it's a vehicle and it has flying. Whenever Smuggler's Copter attacks or blocks, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card, and you can crew it for 1. I like the ability on this. Usually it's something like, if this does combat damage, do a thing. But this, as soon as it swings in, you get to draw a card and then discard a card. It's not, you know, discard a card and then draw a card. That would be terrible. So all of the wording is good on this. And it also lets you discard, or draw and discard, when you block, which is not something we see very often at all. So really do like this thing an awful lot. I'm not sure how much play it sees. And some people are talking about Affinity. I could see that too. An Affinity could use another like cheap flyer like this. It crews it very, very easily, and it gives it a way to loot. And Affinity would probably like being able to cycle through more cards. So maybe there, we'll have to see. You know, let me know how you feel. Does this go in Affinity? And could there be a real vehicle aggro deck in this standard? That's possible too, you know. I like turn 1, 1-drop, turn 2 this, turn 3 Depala. That seems like a good curve right there. So we actually may be seeing something real shape up. This is Welding Sparks. It's 3 mana, 2 generic, and a red for an instant. Welding Sparks deals X damage to target creature, where X is 3 plus the number of artifacts you control. Now, some people are saying standard play. I've seen that on Mythic Spoiler a couple times. There's good discussion on this card. But I don't know. And again, Tireless Tracker is a thing. I was just talking about a vehicle deck that by definition has to play a bunch of artifacts. So if we can get this to deal 5, 6 damage to a creature, that's not bad. But we also just saw a card that unconditionally kills creatures for just 3 mana. And we already had a card like that in the format before, Murder. So I'm just not, you know, we have to like pay 3 mana and do work to get this to maybe kill a creature. So it's just nowhere near as good. Although it is just at the common level, you know, it'll be budget playable, pauper playable even in some decks. I could see that, you know. So this card could have an impact somewhere, and I do like the idea of it, and it seems really, really good in draft, you know. But in standard, I'm just not quite sold. Here's Fragmentize here. It's just a white mana for a sorcery. Destroy target artifact or enchantment with converted mana cost 4 or less. This isn't strictly better than natural state. I've heard a couple of people say that. It's not, because this is sorcery speed, which does hurt it a good little bit, you know. Although we have seen a lot of 4 mana cost artifacts specifically in this set, and I opened up this video with a 4 mana cost enchantment. That probably won't do anything, but well, it might. Who knows? You know, so this card could be relevant. And it's not a bad card by any stretch, you know. It's another sideboard piece, or maybe even a main deck piece, depending on what this standard format looks like. We're not quite sure yet. So, I'm a fan. I think it's an efficient card. Don't like the speed on it, but I really, really like the cost. And the cost is so low that the speed probably won't matter as much. This is Underhanded Designs right here. It's 2 mana, a generic and a black for an enchantment. Hey, an enchantment. Whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 1 generic. If you do, each opponent loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life. You can also pay a generic and a black and sacrifice Underhanded Designs to destroy target creature. Activate this ability only if you control 2 or more artifacts. See? Black-based artifact deck. Totally shaping up. And we haven't even seen half the set, so there could be like more stuff for this weird-looking deck here a little bit in the future. So I am a huge fan of the design of this card. And I'll say it for the millionth time in this video. Clues. Clues are a thing in the standard. We have a thing called Tireless Tracker. This can kill Emrakul at instant speed, by the way. That seems nice. But aside from that, it can kill their best creature at instant speed. So if things go off the rails against aggro, then you can just sacrifice this and get rid of their best guy. So I like a lot about this card. I think it may actually possibly be a thing. It all depends on what we see. Last couple of thoughts about this card before I finish up. I've got a few things to say about it. Multiple copies of this could get like Prism Ring-ish pretty fast. That could get out of control in a good way for you. And also, I like the way that this works with like Fabricate, you know. You play a creature that gets you artifact creature tokens when it comes into play, and that will drain them. Then you can sacrifice them to stuff in Zulaport. Cutthroat will drain their life. So you get things when artifact comes in off of this card, and you get things when creatures go out with Zulaport Cutthroat. And those could double up in a really good way if we have the right deck. That is all the spoilers for today so far, you know. And happy FNM, by the way. This video will probably go up like around the time FNM starts for a lot of people here on the East Coast at least. So that's good timing for a Magic channel. Put up a video like right as FNM starts. We'll see how that works out for me, at least in the first couple hours of release. But in any case, let me know how you felt about all these spoilers. We did see some pretty interesting stuff today. Like, some of it's kind of janky, but like they're all maybes. And I really like maybes because they're really good to discuss. So let me know how you felt about these, and then like the content if you like the content. That really helps me out. And I'll see you guys later. Sub if you're new, because we're going to be doing this until all the cards are spoiled, and you probably want to know what's going to be in the set that you're going to be playing for the next year. So sub if you're new, and I'll see you guys later. I'm Deb from SBMTG. Thanks for watching, my wizards.